welcome to Dark Age Radio, and this is Dark Iron, and this is yet another episode of the heroes and villains of Warmachine and the Iron Kingdoms in general. And today we're digging into the history and background of Deneghra. So Deneghra doesn't currently have a new iteration within Warmachine. She has 3 previous iterations that are usable in the wargame with the legacy Cryx army format, but Deneghra is still an important character to the setting and has, as we've learned, crossed paths with Alistair Kane. So go back to the previous episode to learn a bit more about that. So Deneghra and her sister, her twin sister Victoria Haley, were prophesied foreseen as being powerful Warcasters to be born in the kingdom of Signar, and Scar Ravenmane was tasked with capturing what was believed to just be a single child who would be capable of great magical potential, not thinking there would be 2 of them. So Asphyxius took this, the single captured sister, and would be known as Deneghra, inducted her into the arts of necromancy and those of the Orgoth War Witch tradition as well. Those have been maintained from the captured War Witches way back during the original Orgoth invasion. So Deneghra is corrupted by Asphyxius, taught the various ways of Cryx, and she's also taught that her soul is actually half of a greater soul, that Victoria Haley has the other half of this power. So Deneghra is essentially tasked and taught that her destiny is to kill her twin sister and to claim that soul, join it with her own to be a far more powerful Warcaster. So this would eventually end with with the initial wars of Cryx invading the mainland, going into the Thornwood, establishing a Necrofactorum there, and Deneghra would finally encounter her sister, and in a climactic battle Deneghra is slain by her own sister. Of course, Asphyxius had in his mind that this would eventually happen, that Deneghra would fall, and so Deneghra was brought back to his Necrofactorum, her body put back together, re-engineered to be more powerful than before by necrosurgeons, and because of that, her death occurred at the soul cairn of Garrod. Her soul's connection with her body is weakened somewhat, but this benefits Deneghra as she has a greater understanding of the realm of death and how to perceive, the death energies, those necromantic forces. So she, as a protege of Asphyxius, supports him in his, pathway to power, as he defeats other Lich Lords and claims their power as he's on his way to trying to become a god himself. She, in turn, rises to dominate many of the armies of Cryx and leads the war against Western Moran, and is riding like a giant necromechanical creature, war engine type winged beast. Then, of course, she crosses paths with Kane, as she identified Kane's illegitimate daughter as being a great sorcerer in her own right, and attempted to corrupt her, though was defeated by the Hellslingers. But before then, of course, had utilised Kane and a sliver of his soul to create a Hellslinger Phantom, a form of pistol wraith, which committed numerous murders and framed Alistair Kane for them. But yes, eventually the Hellslingers tracked down Deneghra, defeating her, and saved Cynthia Roscoe, Kane's daughter. So along this path, obviously, people die. We've already spoken that in the previous episode, of people like Captain Lynch. And then, of course, the Infernal Invasion occurs, and it's during this time Asphyxius is turned, again, somewhat reformatted to the service of the cult of Cyrus. And so this leaves a gap, numerous gaps in the ranks of the Lich Lords of Cryx. And so Deneghra ascends, takes charge of all the Lich Lords, and she is now, while there are 12 Lich Lords, she is sort of the 13th and commander of all of them, second to only Lord Toruk himself. He, of course, having been injured in his battles with his progeny, the other dragons, that leaves, for the time being, while he rests and recuperates from his injuries, it leaves Deneghra to be essentially the master of all of Cryx. With the coming of the Orgoth, various ancient tombs are stirring, and it now means that Deneghra is in a position to steal other arcane lore, but also, for the time being, has allied Cryx with the new Orgoth forces, as this presents an opportunity to take over Western Moran, to get some revenge on certain people. For example, Alistair Kane, Cynthia Roscoe, and perhaps, for the time being, play nice with the Orgoth before eventually turning on them and also capturing their forces, their technology, their magic, all of that. So Deneghra at this point is essentially biding her time with this alliance of convenience between the Orgoth and the Cryx. And that's everything that we can say about Deneghra for the time being. She is a very interesting character. I hope to see her back in the game in some form. And we will be continuing this series where we will look at Ursus, who once was a member of Cador and is now a Warcaster of the new Orgoth forces. So if you enjoyed this episode, please like, subscribe to Dark Knights Radio, follow us on Instagram, follow us on here, YouTube, subscribe here. We've got Facebook, we've got a Blue Sky, and then we've got a Discord if you want to discuss this episode and more and other of our content. So thank you for now, and goodbye.